How do I write a good research paper? How do I improve my academic writing skills? What can I do to increase my chances in a job interview? How do I curate the best resume for my dream job?
Ever since the beginning of Christ deemed to be university, need has been felt to bridge the gap between the seekers of knowledge and the source. For that, Christ deemed to be university, through the Center of Academic and Professional Support (CAPS), brings you India's first professional online writing lab, providing students with opportunities for self-learning at their own pace. We aim to offer expert consultation and peer interaction opportunities to all Christites at free of cost. Our one-on-one interactive sessions, online tests and digital certificates adds on to a better learning experience for the users. At Christ Online Writing Lab, we provide assistance at all times to our diverse audience and help them to enrich their professional and academic skills. Some of the courses that we offer are appearing for a job interview, resume writing, art of note taking, introduction to professional communication, research writing, and academic writing. In contemporary times, accessibility is the key to education. It is the only way that allows us to tap into everyone's potential. With the advent of digital medium, education is now available to everyone who wants to learn. This is our contribution to the history of Indian digital education. Christ Online Writing Lab.
Hello and good morning to all. Welcome to the course Writing as a Career. I am Anushka Pandit and I'm a communication master's student at Christ deemed to be university. This course is brought to you by the Center for Academic and Professional Support and the Christ Online Writing Lab, an excellent organization for professional training. Along with my professor, Mr. Chitresh Srivastav, I will be talking about the process of writing, its importance in the professional world, followed by editing, and the last step, that is publishing. Now, this is a week-long session, and today we will touch upon the first unit, that is Introduction to Writing. At the end of today's session, about 30 to 40 minutes from now, we will be opening the floor for questions. You all are welcome to ask all your doubts, if any, through the chat and comments feature. So let us start. Throughout our education, writing is always a part of our course plans, and we all know why. It is something that every student and every professional should be good at, irrespective of their fields of study and work. Why is that? Because writing is one of the most significant forms of communication. From the beginning to the end of a day, communication acts as a vital element in almost everything we do. Apart from regular communication, it comes in handy for students in all kinds of work, their essays and assignments, project reports, and of course, their examinations. For people who are working, it holds the same value for their work meals, reports, presentations, etc. We can see how it is important for everybody. Narrowing down to the professions where writing specifically carries high value, they are those of the media, journalism, advertising, corporate communications, professional writing, where your authors come into place, and many more. The path to all of these roles starts quite early. The earlier you get a command on your writing skills, the smoother things are for you in the long run once you are into the work field. Now, the road of owning your skills starts from your school education and goes all the way to university publishing. Now, we will be covering both these ends and whatever falls in between. You are free to drop in questions for anything that we might miss and that you would want covered. So, moving on, writing is a 5-step process. This is a very commonly suggested, a commonly used and advised framework for writing. For beginners or for experts, this is usually the framework that everybody uses. So basically, you start to brainstorm, you think of ideas, you start preparing, jotting down your key points that are coming to your mind. You make a first draft, which is changed at least 10 times. You revise your draft, whatever is your final draft, and then finally you proofread it, because let's face it, you don't want your errors, your punctuation and grammar errors, etc., pulling you down. So the most important step out of all these 5 steps of the framework is the first step, that is brainstorming. Now, why is brainstorming so important? In your regular cycle of writing, and also while facing writer's block, which we will touch upon in detail later, the basic element of the process is to brainstorm, to make an assortment of your thoughts and ideas that will go in your piece. Now, let us understand how that can be done efficiently. The first step in brainstorming is to do your research. The term research sounds very boring when you first hear it, but try to think of it another way. So, research basically helps you get a frame upon which you can build your article or your essay. Now, it is not just for a research paper or academic article. Even if you are a blogger, and not only the conventional type, think of your Instagram blogs, etc., a little research helps you there as well. If you are a writer, you will find yourself taking reference and ideas from popular writing pages or Instagram influencers. So, similarly, for all kinds of writing, you can first look around on how others in the domain are going about it. What kind of information is out there on your topic? What is the take of readers and other audience apart from the writers that you're referring to? Now, all of this gives you a clear and better frame of mind with which you can move ahead. Once you have a frame of mind ready from the existing information out there, you can move ahead in a better, more clearer way. Now, research is especially of big help when and if you are clueless on the writing end. That is, when you are not sure what you want to write on, you should definitely do some research in that case. Think of topics that bring a spark in you. Basically, things that interest you and those that you are passionate about. So when you are passionate about an issue, your brain tends to work fast on it because you already have a lot stored in your mind, right? So when you already know about a topic that you like, you already have a lot of information about it stored in your mind. On the contrary, if you pick something completely new which you are unfamiliar with, your mind obviously needs more time to register the new information and also gather your own stance and opinions on the issue. Now, that does not mean you should not go for new topics. But yes, when you're facing trouble writing, when you're not sure what to write on, this is probably the best way to go. Next in brainstorming after research is to write around for free, also called in layman language as free writing. Walk around on the paper freely with your instant thoughts and not worry about where it is going. Now, when you don't worry about the end results, you are less conscious of how it turns out to be. You end up letting yourself loose and not restrict yourself much. Now, this way, a lot of content flows out on the paper that otherwise might not have. You can also think of it as the preparation time you get before a group discussion. In the time between you have been told the topic of discussion and the time when the discussion starts, You have usually a pen and a paper to note down your instant thoughts on your topic, which you can elaborate upon later during the discussion. So you can think of it this way as well. So the point is, when you're thinking freely, things turn to come out of your mind. The things tend to flow out also very freely. So otherwise you are mostly very conscious of what you're writing and how it looks. Does it look right or not? Is everything looking good? But when you're free writing, not worrying about how it turns out to be, it is always much more convenient to get content and ideas out of your mind. Now, at the point where you have listed down your key points, you could do two things. Either you evaluate your points and decide that they are not very broad and that you are lacking content, so you expand them, right? Or otherwise, you find that your points are in fact very broad and expansive, in which case you narrow down a little as per your needs. If you're lacking content, you can go back to the research and add up some more until you have what you need. Alright, so apart from the usual way of jotting down your points, you can also make some graphics like flowcharts that should help you visualize the multiple aspects of your topic, or build some sub-arguments or subtitles, and then again you elaborate on all points. So usually when you make flowcharts, a visual approach to any topic helps you visualize the entire concept in your mind in a much more convenient way. It is just an alternative. If you feel comfortable with it, you can give it a try. The last thing you can do under brainstorming is to discuss your topic with a friend or a colleague to get more insights and point of views to imbibe in your piece. So when you're talking to multiple people, you can experience multiple perspectives as well. You may be thinking one way, your friend or a colleague or a professor might be thinking some other way. So it is always a good decision, a good choice to get multiple perspectives on an issue so that you have more point of views to put into your piece. All right. So this was the majorly important step, the most important step in the 5-step framework of writing. Now, another a very important process is when you're writing, the art of writing very concisely. So now in academic writing, or when you are constrained because of word limit, you need to be concise in your writing. So let us see how we can do that. First of all, stick to the gist. Do not add anything extra that you don't need, and don't go for less either. Be straight to the point. No less, no more. Be clear as to what you want to convey. Once you know it, you need to be confident about it. Why? So as to not overstate it, because you don't want to sound like someone who is not sure of what they are saying, or somebody who is trying very hard to convince the readers about their point. So you don't want that to happen. So be confident in what you're saying. Now, when you're keeping it concise, the task is to remove the unnecessary bits, the trimming process. So give your first draft a read. Identify what sentences can be removed without altering the complete meaning of your piece. A very important thing to remember when you're trimming your writing. You need to make sure that nothing is removed so that affecting such a way that affects your main piece, the main meaning of your piece. So remember, you remove sentences in a way that it does not alter or modify the complete meaning. Next, the tidy way, the neat way to present your writing is to do it in paragraphs. Always in paragraphs. Remember, that does not mean simply breaking a long, continuous essay into segments. No. The segments should carry a categorized essence. That is, your paragraphs are meant to pick on different elements in your writing, present in your writing, and explain them separately with divided focus on each of them. So what does that mean? Naturally, your subtitles should align with what is inside the paragraph and vice versa. Now, the key points to take care of in order to remove the extra waste are to use examples that are also concise and making sentences shorter by converting your negative statements into affirmative ones. The negating term that goes with your verb always adds extra words to your statements. So try avoiding using them. For example, instead of saying the food was not tasty, I could say the food lacked taste, right? It is a shorter sentence. Or even better, the food was blonde. So there, I reduced the negating term along with its verb and replaced with one verb that says the whole meaning, says it all. So it is anyway always better to go with positive sentences instead of using words or your connectives that are negative. So use these pointers, remember all these pointers whenever you are working on an article that is supposed to be short and concise. Now, it is applicable to your instant reports and presentations as well. It is the same issue there also. You should always keep it concise. But even for general articles, you should always try to dial down on the extra. Nobody likes to read that much. It brings in a dulling effect on your piece. So you don't want to do that, right? Another form of writing is when you are preparing for a presentation or a talk. So what do we usually do? We jot down points, right? We don't take an entire essay and just go up there to speak. We have our pointers that act as our axis and we revolve around them. Similarly, when you put up a presentation, you should be keeping your points short and simple. Not a lot of information should be there in one statement. So no long sentences, but only bulletins that cover your main key concepts or ideas being discussed. Also, depending upon who your audience is, you decide if and how much you explain on the context background. So if you're in a science class and you're giving a science presentation, you don't really need to explain the background. But if you're in a different stream, you need to brief them about the context a little at least, right? So that is about writing concisely, a very important thing to remember as a writer. Not even as a writer, in any profession, whenever you are writing, unless mentioned otherwise, it is always good to keep your content concise and to the point. Now, moving on to a topic which I mentioned earlier, writer's block. Very, very important in the sense that everybody I know as a writer has faced. Now, so something that every writer faces is the inevitable writer's block. I'm sure most of you are aware of what it means. Writer's block is this huge block in your mind that just doesn't let you go anywhere with your writing. It is a situation where the part of your brain that writes just stops working. You can't seem to connect your mind to your pen. When you try something, you can, but you find it nearly impossible to write. You can try everything, no matter how hard you try, you find it impossible to write anything. So ask yourself, why does this happen? Usually, the creative part of your brain is probably saturated, or you are at a place where you feel that whatever you write is not good enough or not quality content. You experience ideas that are stale, nothing fresh comes out of mind, there is no push to write. So now there are many ways told by writers and renowned authors, experienced authors, to combat the writer's block. such as reading more often or using some relaxation techniques. But let me tell you what I do. Think of it this way. Your brain is lacking new ideas, right? Your brain is lacking new ideas. So get them. How? Go out to new places, or maybe just to your balcony or your terrace. Look at things, and stories will self create themselves in your head. It might seem stupid, but it works. So, going out in the open and looking at things helps in breaking the clot that might be in your mind. So, it helps usually. It might not seem that efficient, but it works. Or another way is to think of something from the past, something that happened to you or to a friend, family member, and take inspiration from that. Or a very common advice is to read more. Yes, it helps, but not always. Why not? Because sometimes your mind, the part of your mind that is reading, is also blocked. You might not be able to actually consume the information. You might not be able to focus what you're reading, and you might not be able to move ahead from a single page. So reading block is also something, I think. So it helps. If it does, it is good, but it's not always helpful. So the last, my personal best, is to what always works for me: hook yourself on to a prompt. What does that mean? Find short prompts on the internet and make your own, or you can make your own. Basically, either you find it from the internet, or you can make your own from a pre-written story. All right, so it is simple. Open a page in a book, take a paragraph, select any paragraph you like, and put it aside. Now build your own story from here. Say your paragraph told you about a man that walks into a building at the end of a lane. We're taking the example of a fictional story. So now what? Now you decide. You are the one who decides what the man does next. Your character, what he does next, or what happens to him. Before you know, the creative part of your brain is working again. So hold on to those ideas then and put them in your own story, right? So there you go. Writer's block 0 and you won. So, and also I suggest always keeping a notepad ready with you, basically in your mobile phones, and penning down any thought that comes to you at any place and any time of the day. They are thoughts. They come to you without notice. So you have to be ready for them. Whenever you have any thoughts, just note them down so that you can remember them later. All right. So that is about the issue of writer's block. Every writer faces it, and with your own time you can learn how to get out of it. Try all the ways, and I'm sure you can do it. So the next topic that we'll see is the topic of plagiarism, something that is very important, as in it is important to stay away from it. Plagiarism, basically, I am sure you know, means copying somebody else's work. So first of all, it is always wrong to copy another writer's work. But say if you're building on it or talking about it in your piece, be sure to cite them, which basically means giving credit. Now, there are a number of citation and documentation styles. It is very important to always cite your sources in an approved citation style, which you can learn what are the available citation styles. Now, some facts are universally known facts for which you may not be sure if they need to be cited, right? For example, say the COVID-19 is a disease which has a high mortality rate. Now, this is a fact well known, universally known. It is a fact, right? You don't need to cite it. But if you're stating figures, some statistical figures or data like COVID-19 reported 50 cases of death in an XYZ city on an XYZ date. So now this you may have taken, this is some data that you probably got from a statistical report of an organization or from the media. in which case you need to cite the source. In case you are not able to decide upon the need of citation for something, you're not sure if that is a simple fact or if that is something clearly stated by an organization or another author, just go ahead and cite it anyway to keep yourself on the safer side. So it is always better to cite if you're not sure about it. So if you want to learn in depth about plagiarism and the rules of citation, because that is a vast topic, so we can have another session dedicated solely to it if you want. But for now, I think this should be helpful. So now that we're talking about writing and writing yourself, it is always beneficial to also edit by yourself. But in case you're not able to do that, there are always tools available online, right? For help with grammar, for help with your choice of words, that is basically your vocabulary and more similar things. For example, you can refer to online dictionaries like the Oxford Learner's Dictionary and the Cambridge Dictionary for vocabulary and polishing your word bank. And for quick evaluation of your work, tools like Grammarly and Spell Checker Plus are available online. I can vouch for Grammarly. It is great. I use it. You can add extension to your browser. It gives you the benefit of proofreading your work anywhere online. If you're writing your mails or submitting an online application through a form or anything, you can even open a Grammarly document and just copy paste your writing there to have it evaluated. Now, along with the corrections, it also points out what the wrong is in all those red marked phrases. So that is those are your tools that you can use always when you have a shortage of time, or there are sometimes mistakes or errors that are not very obvious for you to find out. So in that case, these tools can be very helpful. So after you're done writing your piece, you should be able to edit it by yourself. You won't always have an editor with you, and as a writer, editing comes as a complementary part of the process of writing. Now, you can edit your piece by going through some simple questions. Read your work a couple of times. Look for spelling mistakes, typos, and grammar and punctuation errors. Make sure all terms used by you fit well into the context. Now, if you are confused about the meaning of a word, always check it in the dictionary. Check if there is a flow between all the paragraphs and that they connect well with a fruitful meaning, right? Make sure there is a catchy start that keeps the reader glued to your writing, and also there is a conclusive end that is satisfactory to the reader, something which makes your reader stick till the end. Now, abrupt endings end up ruining the entire impression created by a piece throughout the length of it. So that is about editing by yourself. Another topic that I'd like to touch upon today, two things actually, are blogging and freelancing. So blogging is a very common practice, as we all know. So it is one of the oldest forms of putting across your work on a public platform for others to read. Now, there is an illusion that blogging as a form is disappearing with time. But to tell the truth, it has actually not disappeared but changed its form. It is still there. It has now changed into more evolved forms, such as social media blogs, which include Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and even Quora. So this is just because through social media, it is more convenient than ever before to increase the reach of your content, a very important factor, and make more and more people access it. Now, in today's world, which works on connections, We know what value a certain reach has for any kind of content. The more you share your content, the more other people will have access and read the content, right? So it is always better. Everybody is looking for more sources where you can share your content more and across platforms for more and more people to read it. Next, then comes freelancing, the bread and butter of many. It is a simple concept that keeps you free from any organizational bounds, I think. You take a project, do it, and earn your bucks. Once you are done, you move on to a new one. In this case, it is important that you have a network and, more importantly, a presence which makes it possible for you to have multiple projects waiting at your door to pick up right when you finish one. If you don't, the very freedom of freelancing turns against you with lack of work to get on. Now, usually people prefer to freelance along with their co-work or along with their studies. That way, you keep your experience and some extra bucks on the side, right? So that is something which people prefer to do usually, and it is in fact a very major trend these days, and a good source to earn some extra money and to get your experience. So this is about regular or generic writing, which can range in diversified fields. When it comes to academia, writing narrows down to specifics. Academic writing majorly comprises of scholarly articles and essays, research papers, and dissertation thesis. And your aim is to find the right platform to publish these. There are several journals and publications you can look up to. Any piece of academic writing that has been published carries extra points of value. In the second unit, Mr. Chitresh would elaborate upon this topic, where you will learn more about the process of academic publishing from basic to high end, choosing the right publication, being aware of predatory publishers, very important topic for people who are new into the field of academic publishing, and hovering around other such important questions. So with this, we come to the end of today's session and Unit 1, titled Introduction to Writing. I will see you all again in Unit 3, where we will talk about a rather interesting topic, the process of deep editing. Now, it is not the simple generic editing, but a process beyond it, which gives you the power of turning any rambling piece of chaotic writing into a well-suited one that shines with a spark. It is a magical process, and a lot of renowned famous editors in the world at organizations like the Wall Street Journal, editors are using this technique to edit their writing, and it is excellent. And once you have learned, you would have mastered the magic and the art of deep editing. It is excellent, and once you know it, there's no going back, and you are an excellent editor yourself. You don't need another editor to help you out with your writing once you are familiar with the art of deep editing. So that will be done in Unit 3, which will again be taken by me. For now, the next unit coming up tomorrow, what next after writing, will be taken by Mr. Chitresh Srivastav, and the units after the Unit 3, the rest of the units will also be taken by Chitresh sir. So I'm here for Unit 1 and Unit 3 with you all, and so I hope that this was a useful session for you and that you all learned a lot. This is not very detailed, this is not very specific, this is a basic generic overview of the process of writing and how it helps, its importance, and how one can imbibe the daily practice into their normal routines. So, but if you all want to learn more in detail, we will touch on details, but we will focus more on academics and academic publishing. But if there are any topics that you want to learn more about, you can contact us. Our contact details are available in the course description. Our email IDs are available. You can contact us through there. So also, those of you who have registered for certification from this process should head back and redirect to the website of the Center for Academic and Professional Support, or the Christ Online Writing Lab website, and go into the course description and head to the quiz which is uploaded and post the quiz. So basically you have to go through all the quizzes after every unit. There will be one quiz uploaded every day after 12 p.m. So you can go ahead with that, and hope to see you all in unit 3 then. So thank you. Also, I will be live again in 5 for all your questions, so stay online and see you all back in 5 in live. Thank you.